Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my mid-month June 2025 AM reading check-in update. I think I can still get away with saying mid-month. I'm not that far off from it, though I don't have a whole lot to share. A couple of audiobooks, kinda. I do, however, have, since I'm calling this my first official June update for AM reading, I have my, finally, my literary newsletter up for May, which I'll link down below. I do this monthly on my reading and writing blog where I summarize literary news that caught my interest. I have snippets of the Goodreads reviews for all the books I attributed to May. I have a book pick and a book quote and etc., and that's all down below. And then, just a little bit more to this video, starting as I always do with AM reading videos by reviewing a short story. And I am currently reading from the Cincinnati Review. We are in the fall 2024 edition, and I read Emily Leaves Switzerland by John Fulton. And this is a story where I might let my biases get into the way a little bit because, you know, it's written by who I assume is a man, Another fun fact about filming in June, I decided I should just let my AC run in the background if need be. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I could say that this story is written by a man, it centers a female character, and it talks a lot about her sexuality. And like, it starts with her, she's in Switzerland, she's like a American of Swiss descent, and she is talking like in public with a bunch of girlfriends about orgasms and other things that, and I'm cutting myself off a lot because who knows what I can really say on YouTube, but anyway, we're in that vein of conversation, and this guy, Walter, yes, that's his name. He comes up, he's someone she used to know, he kind of went off the grid for a little bit, and they're in the middle of that conversation, and I guess that leads to the fact that maybe she wants to be intimate. I don't know, this whole thing, I feel like I get what he's trying to do. He's not just trying to be gross or icky, it's about real people, you know, oftentimes, you know, in our society, in Western modern society, young people, you know, get to sexual activity relatively quickly and have questions about intimacy, and it all goes pretty fast. But I don't know, it just, something about the pacing in this, and it just made me question a bit, like, you know, if this really seemed believable to me about this character, and why it was so important for her at this time to prove that she could or had to be intimate with this other guy, and she's about to leave, and you know, we just don't have enough of the character set up, and the stuff they set up about the characters, they're talking about, you know, their backstories and their parents and how they get along with their parents and about their heritage and all of that, and I don't know, it just seems like, to me, the intimacy, the sex part seemed a little bit more forced, that it didn't really have to be in the equation, but maybe I just am defensive and prudish when it comes to men just jumping into this with female characters, and I'm like, I don't know, did you really establish the characters well enough for this? I definitely, you know, related more to the emotional parts, and you know, I don't mind sex in stories or short stories, but I would hope there'd be a little more, you know, build up. Next, I listened to Unorthodox Love by Heidi Shertok on audio. This was my BookTube spin pick for the quarter. This is my quarterly TBR game, a Jewish romance. And speaking of taking a little longer to get to the sexual part, this definitely counts, especially because, you know, a romance has to be also about the relationship, and technically our main character, Penina, is modern Orthodox. But that being said, I feel like this story seems a lot like, you know, Orthodox fantasy to me, really. Things that she's putting on the page, because it doesn't necessarily feel like the way even the modern Orthodox might act, even though they're, you know, more modern than the ultra-Orthodox or Haredim. And in fact, most of the characters around Penina aren't within the community, which I feel like is a way for this author to allow this character to actually get close and intimate with men she isn't related to, which is a big no-no. She even says that explicitly about Penina's community. It's a big no-no in her community, but Penina spends a lot of her time outside the community, maybe because she lives in Minnesota and the community is small and stifling, although we don't quite get into why. I guess it's just, you know, stuff that you might be able to assume about trying to live your life, and, you know, it's a broader landscape out there than the small Orthodox community. Anyway, Penina is 29 and unmarried, which is very old for that community. She's in fact infertile, and I feel like romance, I'm not really an expert, but romance puts a high premium on trying to dissect what the lie that people tell themselves, what it is. And the big lie that Penina tells herself is that she's unworthy of a real relationship because she's infertile in a culture that really values, procreation and babies. And by this point, her matchmaker is setting her up with comically inappropriate possible partners, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to work out at all. And I actually thought that the order of events would be that after like a string of bad dates, she would get approached by a secretly gay member of the community with a proposal to, get married, but, that it would be a fake marriage just to, appease the community. And then she would meet this hot, attractive, secular boss at her job. But instead she meets the boss first, and I don't know, maybe things just got a little off the rails for me when she met the boss, maybe because I really didn't like him all that much. A lot of their relationship in the beginning just felt like, speaking as someone in middle management myself, and I have like a large team of people and people above me and below me I have to like work with, there was just things giving me anxiety, about lawsuits waiting to happen in the workplace, I don't know, maybe I should, take a step back from reality and just have some fun with fantasy, but these interactions were just nuts to me, and I feel like the character of Sam, he just, he would not be probably someone I would have fallen for. Like, at first, he's just, really just kind of dour, and the whole thing is always, as always, it's always predicated on humorous misunderstandings. And then he's described as an alpha male, which I'm like, ugh, and maybe worse for some people, but, and there's just all sorts of things in their reactions that feel a little bit forced and a little bit like forced interactions and forced strain among them. And then there's just the whole thing about Penina spends so much time denying the obvious about her attraction, even as she's saying it out loud. And I don't know, this just gets into I'm just wondering if there's lazy romance out there that just relies on a lot of really cheap bad communication to keep people from actually getting to what they need. Sometimes I feel like that's a thing, and it just annoyed me a fair bit in this book that they couldn't be more honest with each other, or even the thing about this fake engagement that she got into. Like, occasionally they touched on, the reality that it would be so emotionally damaging for the fiance to be lying to his mother about who he really was, and that would just be horrible in so many ways. But instead, of course, we have this conceit where, Penina is focused on the fact that she's going to get a payout and she's going to help save her sister's house. And that's another big part of her, characterization, is that she's somebody who always has to clean up other people's messes. Sometimes I feel like that comes and goes a little bit, but then again, I guess you can't have every scene of her cleaning up people's messes. That would be ridiculous. But another complaint I would have about this book, I think there were too many characters and too many subplots, and I kind of wish she'd been able to, I don't know, streamline things a little bit better. But yeah, I have to wonder, when it comes to the Orthodox representation, Penina also has this goth younger sister and a cousin who actually has multiple sex partners, and I feel like these things could happen in the community, but it's not really handled with a lot of care, or it just doesn't seem, I just question the believability of it. But that again might just come to the fact that this is a fantasy. In a fiction book, people can pretend, if you're modern Orthodox, you can pretend you have access to this type of life, maybe when you don't. Or maybe people will tell me I'm wrong about the community and I'm drawing too many assumptions. But mostly for me, I think I would have needed a different guy. I mean, maybe by the end he kind of, cooled off and acted more like a human to me, but his characterization was sort of abrupt to me, and I only liked him in bits and spurts, and he would not have been my choice. Although the things he says to Penina, I guess, about not feeling worthy, I wonder if that's something that a lot of, potential lovers have to contend with if they're, getting into relationships at an unusual point in their lives. And it resonated a little with me as somebody who's been single for a long, long time. So, Yeah, it was okay, but I have to say I'm trying my best with romance. I'm probably too hard on it as it is, and it might not completely be my cup of tea. So now, weirdly enough, I guess I'm moving into paranormal romance with Night Owls by A.R. Vishny. This was on my anticipated reads of 2024 list. And this is a story about Jewish estries, which are kind of Jewish vampires in a part of mythology I don't really know much about, even though I think the author wrote a essay on Jewish Book Council. I'll link down below. But our main characters are Clara and Molly, and they have been sort of immortal undead theater turned movie house owners in New York for a long time, for I'm assuming like over 100 years, in an establishment that started as a Yiddish theater and now shows movies. I think we're in the modern day, and they subsist by feeding off of men. I think usually they do. Jewish men, they want to make sure that they don't incur any of the stereotypes about Jews and Christian blood that have been so damaging to the community throughout a long time. And in much earlier days than that I'd like to be, there seems to be a problem that Molly actually is falling in love with her girlfriend Anat, and Clara wants them to kind of remain distant so they don't get into any trouble. They also have someone who works for them at the theater called Boaz, and he has a affiliation with ghosts. He seems to be able to commune with ghosts, and it's caused him troubles in the past, and now he particularly is trying to find out about his father, who disappeared randomly when he was very young, and it seems like that might cost him. He has an aunt who warns him not to dabble so much in paranormal materials because apparently the more you dabble in this family, the shorter your life will be. So there's a lot going on in this, and I gotta say, I feel like, I'm not always a paranormal fan, but I think when you add in, the Jewish context, I'm a little more interested. This also, I think, is going to be rife with a lot of New York references as well. Not that I know New York all that well, but still, it's kind of fun that they're going to be there. And hopefully I will report back soon. And there we have it, a short, sweet book haul. Definitely hoping I can pick up the pace a little bit throughout what remains of the month. I will be back here again for another short video, I assume. It'll be my author's answer video, which I do every month following prompts put out by author-tuber J.D. Archer and his writing group, so stay tuned for that. And I hope you are all having great times with what you are reading or listening to on audio, as it might be. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.